Well, Wayne, great to have you in studio tonight, sir. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Hey, good to be with you, Cam.
All right, so what can you tell us about the NRA filing suit yesterday, really going after the Obama administration for these new reporting requirements for FFLs on the border?
Well, I mean, it's another step by this administration, which hates the Second Amendment, to inch their anti-gun agenda one more step down the road. And they want to fight with the NRA. By gosh, they got it. We're going to court. We believe they have done this without any authority to do it. They are circumventing the authority of Congress. They're usurping the authority of Congress, and they're trying to bypass the American public that's against this and impose this registration requirement on citizens that want to exercise their constitutional rights more than twice in the same week. And we're going to court, and they've got to fight with the NRA.
You know, Wayne, the president claims that, along with the DOJ and the ATF, that by filling out this form, reporting that you sell, 2 or more guns in a week to somebody, as if it's really going to stop the cartels, a network that is so huge that they dig tunnels. I mean, there's nothing that stops them.
Ginny, I don't even know where to start. I mean, my gosh, you could stack the gun laws that they have at their disposal in front of you, and a pile of them. And they think one more form is going to make a difference. They don't enforce the ones they have. Syracuse University just came out saying that the Obama administration has dropped prosecutions of federal prosecutions of guns laws to the lowest since 2000. I'm talking about the prosecutions of drug dealers with guns, violent gangs with guns, violent felons with guns. They're not prosecuting them. But
well, one of the other things I got to ask, Wayne, more than a year ago, I mean, as we look at the Fast and Furious scandal, more than a year ago, you had high-ranking ATF officials sending out emails to the officers or to the agents in Phoenix saying, hey, do you have any anecdotes about Fast and Furious? Because we're really looking at this new rule change. And the rule change that we're looking at a year ago was the one that the Obama administration just announced a few weeks ago. The same regulation that you're now suing over. Is this, you think, an attempt to distract from the Fast and Furious scandal?
Well, I've said all along, I mean, I think we're all pawns here in an elaborate chess game that this administration is playing to try to divert everyone's attention and change the subject from this growing scandal that is now reaching up into the highest levels of the Obama Justice Department. I mean, my gosh, I understand they want to change the subject. I mean, here you have, they're caught. Their Department of Justice is caught running thousands and thousands of guns into the hands of the evil people with the drug cartels. Hundreds of people are getting killed. They've been caught trying to manipulate public opinion. They've been caught trying to ruin the reputation of honest American citizens that were abiding by the law, selling firearms under the Constitution of the United States, and they were told to make these sales by the Department of Justice. They're ruining their reputation. And then when the whole thing starts to come out, they engaged in this massive cover-up that should truly shock every American citizen.
And Wayne, I think you hit the nail on the head, because really what was so outrageous and absurd about this whole scheme, this reporting scheme, is the big question of what they plan to do with the information. Because you said, here we have right now in front of us, what's playing right in front of us, Operation Fast and Furious, where the ATF said to the gun dealers, sell the guns, we'll follow up. They never followed up. And they were the ones who said, make the sale, don't worry about it, make the sale.
Yeah, I mean, the whole 90% of the guns the cartels are getting are coming from the United States. I mean, it was a fraud to begin with. They're trying to blame the Second Amendment, blame American gun owners for what the Mexican drug cartels are doing in order to get more gun legislation here in the United States. And they could only prove a trickle of guns. They set out to turn it into a river of guns. The WikiLeaks, their own State Department cables prove the guns aren't coming from the U.S. They're coming from Central America. They're coming from the international black market, Russia, China, defections from the Mexican army. So the whole thing the whole premise of this is a fraud.
Yeah. And you know, Wayne, I know you're traveling across the country a lot, and I know you're heading down to Texas shortly. And we're talking about it, Cam and I, almost every night. We talk about this whole situation with Fast and Furious. What are you hearing from the people you're talking to, the gun owners and the folks you're visiting with, about this issue? Are they as outraged as we are when we see what's going on here in D.C.?
Well, they're just beginning to learn about it because a lot of the media in this country, I mean, you guys with NRA News have been in the forefront of the whole country in terms of covering this story. And thank God. I mean, the way the media operates these days, I mean, the protection from the truth isn't there unless we fight for it. And it's a failure of news organizations. It's a failure of journalism schools. And thank God there's NRA News out there telling the truth every day. I mean, the media is sure no longer an unbiased filter.
Yeah, that's what's been so disappointing is, as you say, now we're starting to see the media pick up on this, but they're portraying this as an ATF-only scandal. You know, there's no mention. I saw the Washington Post. They had an op-ed recently, 8 paragraphs long. They mentioned the ATF. No, I'm sorry, 6 paragraphs. They mentioned the ATF 8 times, never mentioned DOJ, never mentioned Eric Holder, and we know from the testimony that's been given before the House Oversight Committee that DEA, ICE, FBI were considered full partners in Fast and Furious. This was run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Phoenix, Arizona. But clearly, the administration and I think the supporters of Obama in the media want to try to minimize this and make it seem like it was just a couple of guys who had a bad idea that somehow got out of control.
Well, yeah, they want to make it a gun issue. They want to say they keep saying, well, there wasn't enough gun laws. We need more gun laws. There wasn't, they didn't have enough to work with.
And they even want to blame the NRA. I mean, you talk about something that's nonsense and otherworldly. I mean, give me the break. As if NRA would have some interest in running thousands and thousands of guns to the Mexican drug cartels, manipulating public opinion, ruining the reputation of honest American gun dealers, and then covering it all up. I mean, it doesn't even deserve a second mention. I mean, there is a criminal conspiracy that is going on in our Department of Justice, and we need a special prosecutor. The Attorney General needs to resign. We need to shine a top-to-bottom light into the Department of Justice, into ATF. We need to scrub both of those agencies from top to bottom, and we need a full-scale investigation as to what went on, because then we'll know the solutions when we find out what all the problems are. But believe me, I mean, ATF, that's an agency with years and years of difficulty that have now, going up to the very highest levels of the Department of Justice, has manifested itself in a criminal conspiracy that we don't yet know the depths of.
Yeah, and we interviewed Congressman Ison. He said he's got 2 more hearings, and it's interesting you mentioned special prosecutor, because it'll be interesting to see what they are able to get as far as who testifies at these next couple of hearings, and whether that is a route they decide they need to take. Because he was telling Cam and I, we still are fighting for the documents we're asking for. We're still getting stonewalled.
I mean, and the lying's got to stop. I mean, my gosh, I mean, I've said before, if the head of a corporation were lying over and over and over again, nobody would trust that corporation. If a dad in a family was lying, the family members wouldn't trust the dad. What should truly shock the American public is the lying that's coming out of the Department of Justice on this whole issue, that the Obama folks are just outright lying, they're stonewalling, and somebody in the media needs to stand up and ask the president whether they're going to stop the lying, stop the evasive actions on this, they're going to stop the cover-up, and they're going to comply with the subpoenas of Congress so the American public can know the truth. But this multiple sales reporting form, I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, I mean, because I mentioned it to Sheriff Babu today. He had the same reaction. He actually laughed. He said, "You got to be kidding me."
Well, I mean, the FFLs are frankly the only individuals who have come off, looking well in Fast and Furious, because we know that they were telling the ATF, we don't want to make these sales. We know that they've been calling law enforcement when they see somebody suspicious coming in, and now, foisting all of the blame on the people who are they're listening to their consciousness. They're looking at the suspicious characters, and when something doesn't seem right to them, they're contacting law enforcement, and yet they're the ones being blamed for this.
Yeah, I mean, what happened in essence is the fact that the Obama's Justice Department decided to become willing co-conspirators in criminal activity as a partner with the Mexican drug cartels.
Yeah.
I mean, in crimes that may not have otherwise been committed. I mean, you want an example of government gone crazy? This is it. Yeah. And now the multiple sales reporting form, I mean, these drug cartels in Mexico have $40, $50 billion. They rape, they rob, they kill, they murder, they throw their adversaries into lion pits and watch them being killed. And Obama's answer, the Justice Department's answer under Holder, is they're going to stop them with a form?
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. I mean, I told the New York Times my real answer to that was, you got to be kidding me. I mean, they've already got an instant check.
Right.
Prosecute that. Does 2 make it worse?
But the bottom line is, even when the drug dealers did report multiple gun sales, suspicious gun sales, the ATF did nothing. They just said, okay, make the sale, get the license plate. I mean, Dick DeGuerin with Carter's Country, the attorney said, hey, they asked him to follow out into the parking lot, write down the license plate number, give it to us, and we'll follow up. And the ball was dropped. It was a failed scheme from the start.
I mean, this is an administration that we all know hates the Second Amendment. They've put 2 justices already on the Supreme Court that will spend the next 25 years trying to gut this freedom. They're trying to nominate a head of ATF that has spent his career distorting the gun issue in the media, who blames the Second Amendment as opposed to criminals. They've distorted the whole 90% of guns going to Mexico to try to seek legislative advantage here in the United States. I mean, we've all, as American gun owners, got to join together and make sure that President Obama does not get a second term, because that election could break the back of a Second Amendment in this country.
Absolutely. Right. Wayne, thank you so much, sir, for coming and joining us in studio, and look forward to having you here again very soon.
Thanks for having me, Cam.
Wayne LaPierre, Executive Vice President and CEO of the National Rifle Association, join us here on Cam & Company.